You lost access to creativity. That's not the same as losing it. In almost every coaching session I have with a creative, there is a moment where they stop and they say, I don't know. They are waiting for permission that is never going to come from the outside. And making this video today, I felt exactly the same thing. I was sitting here thinking, I don't know what to say, but that's not true. I knew what I wanted to say. What I was really doing was waiting for my own permission to begin. So I began. And what I just did, that is already what this video is about. Losing the habit of creating is different from losing your creativity. You stop creating for many different reasons. Something from the outside comes to disturb. A money problem, someone sick at home, something that pulls your attention away, and when your focus goes outside, the creating stops. I've spent decades working at the highest level on the creative world with Givenchy, Tiffany & Co., across fashion, music, film, and the question I hear the most, even from people at the top of their field, is, why can't I create the way I used to? Every one of them still has the ability. What they lost is access. I know very well what it feels like when the outside becomes louder than the inside. You stop taking care of yourself. You take care of what's happening around you much more than what you're doing. Everything happening around you feels more important than you. And it becomes very, very difficult because you start forgetting your identity. If you lose even just a part of it, you feel lost. And when you feel lost, it's extremely hard to create. The more you think about it, the more you feel you don't know what to do, the more you feel you're not good enough. How many people have said that to me? I'm not good enough. I'm not creative enough. I think half of the people who come to see me at one point say exactly that. And I really understand what is happening there. What is strange is you don't see it coming. Nobody tells you. It's not a decision someone makes against you. The company has its own priorities, its own pressure, and slowly those priorities take up more space than you do. The cage builds itself around you. And sometimes you build it yourself because you're creative, you get bored easily. You need newness. And that unable to rest, which is part of who you are, can put you in situation where the outside starts taking more space than the inside without you even seeing it. So when you say you're not creative enough or you're not good enough, ask yourself if something was taken from you slowly without you noticing. The question alone can stop the spiral. The moment you see it clearly, it becomes about access. Let me give you two images from my own life. The first time I worked with Givenchy, Hubert de Givenchy, needed someone to translate what I was saying to him in French. He is French. I am French. There was a translator in the room to translate French to French. That is all you need to know about how much permission I had to create. With Lagerfeld, it was completely different. He put one idea on the table, he told me what he wanted, and then he trusted me completely. I never saw him doubt what I could do, not once. But I want to precise, it was not totally freedom. He had a garden. He showed me where the edges were. And inside those edges, I could grow whatever I wanted. A frame and a cage can look identical from the outside. Same size, same shape. In the cage, the edges belong to someone else. If you touch them, someone pushes you back and it's not your decision. In a frame, the edges are still there, but if you cross them, you decide to cross them. You carry the consequences yourself, and the work you produce inside the frame, even if it looks exactly the same as the work you did in the cage, you were prouder of it because it came from a decision that was yours. If you were ever felt more alive in one job than another, doing similar work for similar hours, this is probably why. And what happened when someone's arrived and changed what was working without understanding why it was working in the first place? There is a slogan that says everything about what I'm trying to tell you. 3 words. No explanation, no justification. Just do it. Nike launched that in 1988, and for decades it worked because it was true. It was more asking you to move than to perform or compete. That's all. In 2020, new leadership arrived at Nike, and the first instinct when you arrive somewhere new is always to change what didn't work. Never to ask why what was working was working. They replace feeling with numbers. They replace philosophy with data. And 3 years later, revenue start falling. And now in 2025, Nike's come back with why do it? Which for me is exactly the wrong question. The moment you ask why, you are already asking for permission. The child doesn't ask why before jumping in the puddle. The musician doesn't ask why. You don't ask why. You just do it. Just do it was never about sports. It was about permission. Your own permission. And the day that philosophy was forgotten, Nike lost everything that made them Nike. And if you've been asking yourself why bother before you even begin, you already know what that costs. There is always a moment in music where someone decides to stop asking. Punk was like that. They were making their own rules because they couldn't do anything else. And it's always like that. R&B, hip-hop, whatever comes next, almost always, it's a counterculture, coming from somewhere that wasn't allowed before. Taking a permission that nobody gave them. I think about children jumping in the puddle of mud. They do it because it's so enjoyable, because it's exactly what their parents don't want them to do. And the dog next to them is doing exactly the same thing. With the same joy, the same total absence of permission. That is what creating feels like. You know you don't have the permission, and you jump anyway. For me, the moment I took this permission, completely alone, with no one telling me, was okay. I was very young. I left everything to go and express myself through music. The outside became louder than the inside. It doesn't matter how it happened. Maybe it was something someone said. Maybe it was money. Maybe it was responsibility, or just the weight of the daily life. Maybe no one said anything, and that silence was enough. Maybe you told yourself that's life. Maybe you told yourself I'm not good enough. Maybe you didn't tell yourself anything. You just stopped. That part of you that needed to express itself didn't disappear. You lost access to it. And losing access is a very different thing from losing it. You lost access to something that was expressing a real part of you. And that part is still there, waiting for you to stop asking for permission and start. When I started this video, I told you I didn't know what to say. That was true, but really true. And I said it anyway. The doing was more important than the permission. That's all it ever was. Starts before anyone tells you it's okay. Talent matters, confidence helps, timing is real, but none of it moves until you decide to begin. It was never your fault that you stopped. The outside became louder than the inside. That happens to everyone. Finding that direction alone is only part of it. The harder part is seeing what's getting on the way, and most creatives can't see that clearly from the inside. That's what the work is. And if you want to do that work with someone who lived it, the link to book a call with me is in the description below. We'll start with one possibility and go from there. It helps to have someone outside the frame.